Thank you for listening to Depictions Media Radio. Welcome to Policy and Rights, the show about government policy and human rights. Welcome back to Policy and Rights here on Depictions Media Radio. I am your host, Michael Clogs. BBC update. A device that can regenerate heart tissue. Here, new research suggests that gentle shock waves could regenerate heart tissue in patients after bypass surgery, a discovery that could help millions of people. The device makes it possible and has been dubbed the space hairdryer. And researchers in Austria have been trying to regenerate damaged tissue itself by applying mild shock waves shortly after bypass surgery. Half of the bypass patients in the study, published in European Heart Journal, were treated with the sound waves under general anesthetic, while others received a fake or a sham procedure. A year after their surgery, the amount of oxygenated blood pumped by the heart had increased by 11.3%. That's a significant percentage in the shock wave group compared to 6.3% in the control group. So, according to the BBC, did you know that in Uganda you can be arrested for making illegal clothes? Yeah, I did say illegal clothes. A prominent Ugandan designer was arrested last month for allegedly possessing uniforms declared to be for the exclusive use of the military and police, which is illegal under Uganda law. And the critics to this are saying that the 47-year-old designer his real offense was designing a fire engine red overalls worn by the opposition leader Bobby Wine. So, sounding very, very political. And let's move forward here and to the CNN, which we have some updates from there about the Joe Biden, Donald Trump historic showdown in exactly 1 week, with the stage now set for CNN's June 27th presidential debate. The event will make history. It's the first debate between sitting president and a former president, and could be a pivotal moment in the 2024 race as millions of potential voters tune in. And the eastern part of the United States and Canada is still receiving extreme weathers. with extreme heat in many parts of the Atlantic coast, and we're also heading into the Atlantic hurricane season, and it is bringing gusty winds and storm surges to southern Texas. A level 3 of 4 risk of flooding is in place in parts of the state, including Corpus Christi. Meanwhile, a dangerous heat wave, of course, is still in the Midwest and the Northeast. So, there we go. In Louisiana, public schools are now required to display the Ten Commandments in the classroom after Republican Governor Jeff Landry signed a requirement into law Wednesday. With Bill 71, approved by the state lawmakers last month. Interesting move for religious freedom. So, updates from the CNN and the BBC. And we're going to hear about cybersecurity from the United Nations as Antonio Guterres, he addressed the UN Security Council floor about how cybersecurity is very important, especially when dealing with volatile situations that we're seeing around the world, that different groups can fuel situations. And at this point, when we consider how AI can be used to develop messages and broadcast those same messages to extremist groups and those groups that wish to do harm to others. And along with that, we're going to hear about food security in Canada, as one particular school in Nova Scotia introduced a student-run food program or lunch program, and Justin Trudeau is there to talk to the students about that. And there is one of the grade 12 students who will actually give a speech also about the importance of food security in Canada and the classrooms. So let's move forward, and we will hear from the United Nations press floor first, and stay tuned, and you'll hear from Justin Trudeau as he speaks about food security and childcare aid for parents that have children in school.
Morning, the Secretary General spoke to Security Council members on the evolving threats in cyberspace. He said that breakthroughs in digital technologies are happening at warp speed and revolutionizing economies and societies. The Secretary General warned that while instant connectivity is bringing people together, it can also leave people, institutions, and entire countries deeply vulnerable. He said that malicious activity in cyberspace is on the rise by both state and non-state actors, and by outright criminals, and that the misuse of digital technology is becoming more sophisticated and stealthy. The Secretary General underscored that there should be strong frameworks in line with international law, human rights, and the UN Charter, and focused efforts by all states to prevent the extension and escalation of conflicts within and through cyberspace. He also encouraged Council members to integrate cyber-related considerations into their work streams and resolutions. His full remarks are online. The UN Special Coordinator for Lebanon, Janine Hennis-Pleshert, visited UNIFIL headquarters in Nakura today and met today with the Force Commander, Lieutenant General Aroldo Lazaro, and with UN peacekeepers deployed in South Lebanon. She visited the Blue Line and said afterwards that it is crucial for all sides to stop the firing and for the parties to commit to sustainable solutions in line with Security Council Resolution 1701. There's no inevitability to conflict, she said. The Special Coordinator and the Force Commander both reaffirmed that the parties can choose negotiations and peace, and that the UN remains committed to engaging with all parties and international partners to restore peace, security, and stability in Lebanon, Israel, and the broader region at this crucial juncture. Turning to Gaza, the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs reports that hundreds of thousands of displaced people in southern Gaza suffer from poor access to shelter, health, food, water, and sanitation. From the 7th to the 14th of June, OCHA led humanitarian assessments in displacement sites in the south of Gaza, in Deir el-Bala, 2 in Khan Yunis, and 2 in the Al-Mawasi area of Rafah. Our colleagues found people living in overcrowded, makeshift shelters and tents, which are in dire need of repair and do not offer any protection from extreme heat. Access to water is critically low, and people have to queue for long hours to collect it, and are forced to rely on seawater for domestic use. There's a continuing spread of communicable illnesses amid sewage overflow, the proliferation of insects, rodents, and snakes, and a near-total lack of hygiene items and sanitation facilities. Many households report having only one meal every day, with some having one meal every 2 or 3 days, relying mostly on bread, food sharing with other families, and rationing stocks. Meanwhile, OCHA tells us that access constraints continue to severely undermine the delivery of essential humanitarian assistance and services across Gaza. Between the 1st and 18th of June, out of the 61 coordinated humanitarian assistance missions to northern Gaza, 28 or 46% were facilitated by Israeli authorities, 8 or 13% were denied access, 16 or 26% were impeded, and 9 or 15% were cancelled due to logistical, operational, or security reasons. Once again, we want to underscore that humanitarian operations in Gaza must be fully facilitated, and all impediments must be lifted. We have an update on flooding and landslides that hit Mexico and Central America between June 15th and 17th. Our humanitarian colleagues tell us that, according to forecasts, up to 75 centimeters of rain is expected by the end of this week. That is because there is a broad area of low pressure centered over northern Central America and southern Mexico, in a pattern that is known as a Central American gyre. The countries and areas most impacted by heavy rainfall at the beginning of the week are El Salvador, Guatemala, northwest Nicaragua, southwest Honduras, and the Mexican states of Chiapas and Oaxaca. According to official reports, at least 20 people have died in the affected countries. Separately, the first tropical storm of the Atlantic hurricane season, Alberto, made landfall in the Mexican state of Tamaulipas today and is expected to bring heavy rain and coastal flooding to northeastern Mexico. The forthcoming Atlantic hurricane season is expected to be more active than usual due to several factors, including near-record water temperatures in the Atlantic Ocean and the development of La Niña conditions in the Pacific. The UN team in Mexico and in the 3 northern Central American countries of El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala, led by the resident coordinators, are monitoring the situation closely, together with the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. We remain in close contact with the governments and stand ready to provide further guidance and support. The 2024 humanitarian response plans for the region require more funding. The appeal for El Salvador, seeking $87 million, is just 13% funded, while the $125 million plan for Guatemala is 18% funded, and the appeal for Honduras, seeking $203 million, is currently 21% funded. Today is World Refugee Day, and this year's theme is For a World Where Refugees Are Welcomed. In a message for the day, the Secretary General notes that from Sudan to Ukraine, from the Middle East to Myanmar to the Democratic Republic of the Congo and beyond, conflict, climate chaos, and upheaval are forcing record numbers of people from their homes and fueling profound human suffering. The latest figures, he says, show that over 120 million people around the world are forcibly displaced, including 43.5 million refugees. The Secretary General calls on all to pledge to reaffirm the world's collective responsibility in assisting and welcoming refugees, in upholding their human rights, including the right to seek asylum, in safeguarding the integrity of the refugee protection regime, and ultimately in resolving conflicts so that those forced from their communities can return home. For his part, Filippo Grandi, the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, said that today we honor the millions of people around the globe who are forced to flee violence and persecution. We celebrate their remarkable fortitude and capacity for renewal despite the daunting challenges they face. He stressed that there must also be safe and legal ways for refugees to settle elsewhere, whether through work visas, scholarships, or resettlement in another country. Without these options, more people will turn to smugglers in a desperate search for hope and opportunity. That's it for me. Any questions before we turn to our guests? Yes, Edie.
Thank you, Farhan. Two questions. First, has the United Nations been able to move any aid on the route that Israel has stopped fighting on in the last day?
There's no movement to report right now. As far as we're aware, the Israeli Defense Forces have confirmed that military operations in Rafah continue as planned. We welcome any initiative aimed at facilitating the delivery of aid, and the humanitarian community reached an understanding with COGAT for windows of coordinated movements intended to facilitate safe movements of humanitarian aid. Fighting in the area may have decreased as a result of those coordinated movements, but it's not the only impediment for our colleagues to pick up aid in the area between the Kerem Shalom and Saladin roads. The lack of public order and safety is a major obstacle and requires concerted efforts and concrete measures to find a solution. And you've seen that we've made clear that it's the responsibility of Israel as the occupying power to ensure that assistance can reach those who need it the most and to create an enabling environment, and we're working with them on that.
Can you give us any details on what might be discussed on that in terms of trying to ensure security?
Well, we are in discussions both with authorities on the ground and with the Israeli authorities, including COGAT, to see whether there is any way to create essentially an environment of reassurance so that people are not in panic that aid, for example, is a one-time thing, so that they rush and essentially try to raid convoys that are coming towards them. So it's taking a while to establish a secure environment, but we are trying to do that.
And secondly, on the U.S. peer review by the United Nations, is there any update? It seems to be taking a very long time.
What I can say on that is a thorough security assessment is being conducted by our Department of Safety and Security to ensure the safety of UN staff and partners. If that assessment can conclude that the UN can resume operations, then the World Food Programme stands ready to do so based on its core humanitarian principles, and it remains committed to do all it can to bring humanitarian supplies. But at this point, there's no update from the security side to give to you.
And any indication of when an update might come?
Your guess is as good as mine. Deji.
Well, two follow-ups with two questions Edie have just asked. So there's tactical pause in Gaza for several days. So overall, how does the UN evaluate those tactical pauses for humanitarian deliveries?
Well, as I pointed out, I mean, we welcome the initiatives that are aimed at facilitating the delivery of humanitarian aid. And so we're encouraged by that, and we're continuing our dialogue with the Israeli side on this. But at the same time, there are still some impediments, and the basic problem is one of a lack of public order, and that is creating a situation on the ground that has been very difficult for the provision of aid. So not all of the solution is in place yet.
How many trucks do you believe that is because of the tactical pause that UN was able to send in to Gaza Strip?
I don't really have any number of trucks because it's hard to confirm that aid is getting to the people who need it, again, because of the unrest in the area. Once we can get aid to be distributed to people, we'll have some data for you at that point.
Okay, so my second follow-up on the floating dock. The New York Times reported yesterday that U.S. is planning to dismantle that floating dock earlier than expected in July. So you're still doing the security assessment in late June. How many days would you expect that would give deliveries?
Again, the important part of this job is to make sure that that the security evaluation is such that we can actually go about our work safely. We're not at that point right now, so there's no timeline to give you on it. Maggie and then Gabriel. Then you.
Thanks, Farhan. VOA is from the Pentagon that aid is now flowing again to Gaza from the pier. So it's coming to the pier, but is it just going to sit at the pier if WFP is not picking it up? What's going to happen to it? Do you have any information about that?
Well, yes. I mean, the role of the dock that's played by the World Food Program is to help receive and arrange the dispatch of aid on behalf of the humanitarian community. At this point, although it's ready to resume its operations once it's secure, our evaluation is continuing. So they have suspended their activities there. Gabriel, and then Mike.
Thank you, Farhan. In your briefing, you mentioned between June 1st and June 18th, 61 coordinated humanitarian missions from the north, and then you gave some numbers. Do you mind repeating those by any chance?
Repeating something I said before is the easiest part of the job, so I never mind doing that. So between the 1st and 18th of June, there were 61 coordinated humanitarian assistance missions to northern Gaza, mind you. Out of those, 28 were facilitated by the Israeli authorities, 8 were denied access, 16 were impeded, and 9 were canceled due to logistical, operational, or security reasons.
And the ones that were impeded, do you have more details on that?
No, this is as much detail I have about that. There were different factors in each case. Mike?
Thank you, Farhan. Regarding the IPC's Famine Review Committee report that came out last week, the IPC hasn't made any of the Gaza analysts available to us yet. I assume you haven't heard back from them either?
That's not the report. The report is still forthcoming. I believe it will be. We are anticipating to have a report from the IPC next week. Whichever day that happens, we are planning to have IPC experts talk to you, probably by video teleconference.
Does the Secretary General have any comment about the Famine Review Committee's information that their assessments that there's famine in Gaza simply aren't plausible, about the omissions of food deliveries, about the miscalculations and the misassessments? The Secretary General have any comment about that data?
Well, that is one set of experts. What we are waiting for is the review by the IPC. Like I said, we expect that to happen next week. We'll give you more details closer to the time when that happens, and we'll have them talk to you.
Okay, thank you. I did have one other question.
Oh, sure. Why don't you have your question, and then we'll go to Mr. Leblou.
The Foreign Minister of Israel sent apparently a letter to the Secretary General, basically airing some grievances on some information that has come out of the UN as of late that Israel feels is misinformation or disinformation. Does Secretary General respond to that letter? Are you aware that he received it?
I'm aware of the letter. What I can tell you is that the Secretary General, there were a number of inaccuracies in what the foreign minister's allegations have been. The Secretary General has some information on that, and we will be sharing it as needed with our interlocutors. Yes, Mr. Leblou.
Thank you, Farhan. I have 3 questions to GCI, Global Climate Fund.
Bless you.
Another one is International Refugee. First, I want to know about the Rohingya refugee problem is becoming increasingly serious. It is not only dangerous for Bangladesh, but also threatening regional security and stability. There has been a lot of talk about this in the last few years in the Security Council also. But nothing is working. So now is the time to pay attention to the depth of the problem and create an...
Mr. Leblou,
I'm just
rather than go through the speech, can you please tell me what your question is?
1 second. Few years in the Security Council also, yeah. What is the latest position of the United Nations in this regard to solve the refugee problem, Rohingya in...
We are doing what we can to work with the relevant governments to see what can be done to bring about safe conditions in Myanmar for the return of the Rohingya. We are nowhere close to that at this point. But as you know, the Secretary General has appointed a new personal envoy for Myanmar, Julie Bishop, and she is working with different parties, including those in the region, to see what can be done on this.
Okay, and Green Climate Fund is regarded as the largest global source of climate funding for developing countries. But aimed at mobilizing the climate finance promised by developed nations, however, it has only been also to mobilize 2 to 3% of the promised US $100 billion per year from developed countries. From New York to Bangladesh and India now facing
again, Mr. LeBleu, the structure of this press conference is to allow for an exchange between the spokespeople and reporters. It's not really for long prefatory speeches. What is your question?
But I have to present the situation, what's going on.
I'm aware of the situation with the Green Climate Fund. What's the question about it?
By passing country priorities and defining its targets, GCF allocating more funds for mitigation and adaptation and prioritize loans over grants. The imposes additional debt payment, hundreds of already overburdened climate vulnerable countries, which are contradictory to the polluters pay principle. Even in this situation, the rule of the Green Climate Fund will continue at a slow pace. Is there any comment on or statement from UN Secretary General regarding this issue?
We believe that the Green Climate Fund is, in fact, a worthwhile and crucial initiative. We want it to be given as much support from member states, including financial support, as it needs to be able to go about its tasks. Sinan?
Thank you, Farhan. I have a few questions, if you don't mind. As you know, a refugees boat wrecked off Italy's southern coast, I think last Monday. And, some bodies are missing, and I wonder if the United Nations team provides any help in Italy to find those bodies?
We have not been requested to help with this, but we certainly hope that the relevant authorities in Italy will go about their work in finding all of those who were lost.
Second question is, I wonder if Secretary General have any demands to protect those who seek refuge in other countries and prevent that kind of incidents from happening again?
Well, the Secretary General has made clear that there are certain responsibilities both on, that involve the countries who receive refugees, the countries of transit, and those of origin. And he wants all of them to work together to deal with this crisis. There's a very lengthy statement that he has made and one that Mr. Grandi has made for World Refugee Day today, and I just refer you to what they've been saying.
I have a last question, if you don't mind. There are some criticism about the European countries' policies towards immigrants. As you know, European countries tightens migration policies, and also they are building some walls. And I wonder, do you have a reaction to that?
Well, you'll have seen what the Secretary General has said. Again, this is something which requires cooperation amongst all of the countries involved, the countries of reception, those of origin, and those of transit. And they need to work with each other to make sure, in particular, that the rights and dignity of all refugees are respected. Yes, Mike.
I had a question about transparency, Farhan. A few weeks ago, my outlet became aware of some allegations that were going to be lodged against a particular special rapporteur with regards to travel expenses. I reached out before that information became public to the special rapporteur's office to seek comment, clarification, received nothing, which is certainly her entitlement, I guess. She went on to publish a statement on Twitter saying that the UN has the answers to those allegations. I reached out to the spokesperson's, to the Secretary General's spokesperson's office, which you work for. I was told that I need to go to the Human Rights Council to seek clarification. I went to the Human Rights Council, who said I need to go to the Special Rapporteur's office to seek clarification. There's no accountability here. There's no transparency. Why does the buck get passed like this?
Well, for one thing, when it comes to special rapporteurs, these are independent experts. The Secretariat and the Secretary General play no role regarding them.
If there's a UN
dollar
flowing to them, then you
wait,
have
let me finish.
Go ahead.
Hold on. Don't talk over me if you wanted to ask me a question. The accountability for special rapporteurs lies with the Human Rights Council. They're the ones who appoint the Human Rights Council, the Human Rights rapporteurs, and they're the ones who receive their reports. And so it is they who are in charge of them. And there is a system of spokespeople in Geneva who deal with the Human Rights Council, and they're the ones who can handle questions about them.
Where does the money come from for the special rapporteur's travel? It comes out of some UN account. Somebody has to oversee it. So telling me to go back to the special rapporteur who doesn't oversee those accounts is passing the buck. The answer will never come.
Again, those are questions for the Human Rights Council. They have oversight over the rapporteurs.
But they're not answering the questions.
That's a member state body. It's nothing that I, speaking for the Secretariat, have authority over.
Thank you, Farhan.
All right. Volodymyr, one more? Okay, two more, and then we'll go to our guest. Volodymyr, and then Deja.
On the Russian crisis and Putin's visit to North Korea, it is clear that dictators gravitate towards each other to prolong their political lives and intimidate the world. Does the Secretary General see a growing threat of conflict in the region due to this convergence of dictatorships?
I think that's the sort of editorial and analytical comment that I rely on the reporters to furnish. It's not for me to comment. Yes.
Quick question. Do you have any update on the OIOS report on UNRWA?
On UNRWA?
Yeah.
No, their work is continuing. All right. Thanks. Let's go to our guest.
Can I ask a question, Farhan?
I now give the floor to the Secretary General, His Excellency Mr. Antonio Guterres.
Mr. President, His Excellency Cho Tae-yul, Foreign Minister of the Republic of Korea, Excellencies, I thank the Republic of Korea for convening this high-level debate on an issue that affects us all, peace and security in cyberspace. Mr. President, breakthroughs in digital technologies are happening at warp speed. From information and communication technologies and cloud computing to blockchain, 5G networks, quantum technologies, and more. Digital advances are revolutionizing economies and societies. They are bringing people together, delivering information, news, knowledge, and education at the tap of a screen or click of a mouse, providing citizens with access to government services and institutions, and supercharging economies, trade, and financial inclusion. But the very quality of seamless, instant connectivity that powers the enormous benefits of cyberspace can also leave people, institutions, and entire countries deeply vulnerable. And the perils of weaponizing digital technologies are growing by the year. Cyberspace has kicked the doors wide open. Anyone can walk through, and many are. Malicious activity in cyberspace is on the rise by both state and non-state actors and by outright criminals. Serious cybersecurity incidents are disturbingly common. From breaches of essential public services like healthcare, banking and telecommunications, to relentless illicit activity, including by criminal organizations and so-called cyber mercenaries, to a legion of hate merchants littering the information superhighway with fear and division, to the increasing use of cyberspace as another weapon in ongoing armed conflicts. So-called civilian hacktivists are entering the fray and in many cases are blurring the line between combatants and civilians. And the growing integration of digital tools with weapons systems, including autonomous systems, presents new vulnerabilities. At the same time, the misuse of digital technology is becoming more sophisticated and stealthy. Malware, wipers and trojans are proliferating. AI-enabled cyber operations are multiplying the threat, and quantum computing could break down entire systems with its ability to breach encryption. Software vulnerabilities are being exploited, and cyber intrusion capabilities are even sold over the internet. and company supply chains are being actively targeted by hackers with serious disruptive and cascading effects. Ransomware is one grievous example, a huge threat to public and private institutions and the critical infrastructure people depend on. According to some estimates, total ransomware payments reached $1.1 billion in 2023. But far beyond the financial costs are the costs to our common peace, security and stability, both within countries and among them. Malicious activity that undermines public institutions, electoral processes and online integrity erodes trust, fuels tensions and even sows the seeds of violence and conflict. Mr. President, digital technology offers an incredible opportunity to create a more just, equal, sustainable and peaceful future for all. But breakthroughs must be oriented towards the good. The new Agenda for Peace places prevention at the heart of all peace efforts. It calls for developing strong frameworks in line with international law, human rights and UN Charter, and focused efforts by all states to prevent the extension and escalation of conflicts within and through cyberspace. As reflected in the new vision for the rule of law must exist in the digital sphere as it does in the physical world. And I also welcome the General Assembly's commitment to action in this area. This includes its dedicated, open-ended working group on information and communication technology security. States are building on the universally endorsed normative framework of responsible state behavior in the use of these technologies. And they are actively considering the applicability of international law to state activities in this domain. And under the auspices of the General Assembly, Member States are working to reach consensus on a new cybercrime treaty in the coming months. We should deepen cooperation while protecting human rights online. But given the clear and growing links between cyberspace and global peace and security, this Council can also play a key role by integrating cyber-related considerations into your existing work streams and resolutions. This is only the second time the Security Council has held a formal meeting on this issue. But so many of the issues considered around this table are affected by and linked to cyberspace, including the protection of civilians in armed conflict, peace operations, counter-terrorism, and humanitarian operations. Integrating this issue into your deliberations would be a useful way to lay the groundwork for more effective responses to this important question.
Mr. President, peace and security in the physical world demand new approaches to peace and security in the digital world. This September's Summit of the Future represents a vital opportunity to enhance cooperation on critical global challenges and to reinvigorate the multilateral system. The pact that will emerge from the summit represents a pivotal chance to support the maintenance of international peace and security in cyberspace. Amongst other priorities, Chapter 2 of the pact aims to reaffirm global consensus on safeguarding critical infrastructure against harmful ICT practices and creating enhanced accountability for data-driven technology, including artificial intelligence. Meanwhile, my high-level advisory body on AI is completing its final report on how we can govern AI for humanity while addressing its risks and its uncertainties. I look forward to working with this Council, the General Assembly and all Member States to ensure that technology is focused where it belongs, on the progress and security of all people and the planet that we share. I thank you.
I thank. Good morning. I'm the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Korea. This morning, the representative of the 63 member states and the delegation of the European Union are gathered here to announce a joint statement on the use of international information and communications technology in the context of international peace and security. On behalf of the participating member states and the EU delegation, I'm going to deliver a joint statement. We take this opportunity to reaffirm our steadfast commitment to promoting an open, secure, stable, accessible, and peaceful information and communication technologies environment in compliance with international law. We note that the malicious use of cyberspace poses a significant challenge in today's interconnected world, as states rely heavily on digital infrastructure for communication, commerce, and governance. The cyber threat landscape is constantly evolving with the growing use of new malware and cyber techniques. The dark web and illicit revenues generated from cryptocurrency heists can be exploited to support terrorist activities and nuclear and WMD development in violation of relevant UN Security Council resolutions and international law. In particular, we express our deep concern over malicious cyber activities targeting critical infrastructure, as they can cause cascading effects across borders and sectors, including the healthcare, maritime, aviation, space, energy, and financial sectors. We are also concerned that impacts of malicious use of ICTs may have disproportionate effects on women and children, people in vulnerable situations, and citizens of states with less capacity to address cyber threats. In this vein, capacity building is an important aspect of cooperation in cybersecurity, and the United Nations can continue to play an important role in this regard. We note an alarming trend that malicious use of ICTs can work as threat multipliers, aggravating existing conflicts and threats against international peace and security. In this respect, the linkage of cyber threats and international peace and security is evident, and the Security Council has a key role to play in addressing cyber threats to fulfill its primary responsibility for maintenance of international peace and security. We express our strong view that the Security Council needs to raise its awareness and deepen understanding of the ever-evolving threat landscape in cyberspace. The Council could benefit from convening meetings and receiving regular briefings on the evolving threat landscape in cyberspace in conjunction with its mandate and agenda. We believe that comprehensive, responsive, and evidence-based approach to cybersecurity in line with the works and mandate of the Security Council is essential for the Council to remain agile and relevant in light of the rapidly evolving technology. Bearing in mind that the nexus between cybersecurity and the existing mandate of this Council, the Council could explore ways to mainstream cyber concerns when discussing country-specific files or other thematic files. We are of the view that the role and work of the Council in cybersecurity must reinforce and complement the existing and ongoing work of the General Assembly. In this respect, we also recognize the importance of the Council's reaffirmation of the UN framework of responsible state behavior in the use of ICTs, which was adopted by consensus of all United Nations member states. With this in mind, we welcome today's open debate in the Security Council, which gives opportunity for the member states to initiate relevant discussion and present their views on the possible role of the Security Council in addressing the malicious use of ICTs. Thank you very much.
Mr. Trudeau, can we have some response from you, please, on the DPRK and the Russia comprehensive agreement? Have they crossed a red line? Will you raise it with Ambassador Nebenzia while you're here? Is South Korea considering sending weapons now to Ukraine? Are you going to go to Washington and see Secretary Blinken?
Well,
get it all in.
Official statement of my government was announced a couple of hours ago by our National Security Advisor in Seoul. I want you to refer to the statement for the details. But I just add my own voice of concern over the situation, and I would like to emphasize once again that any direct or indirect assistance or cooperation that enhances North Korea's military capability is a clear violation of the multiple UN Security Council resolutions. And it is indeed deplorable that a permanent member of the Security Council, which had agreed to the adoption of these resolutions is now acting in violation of the resolutions and by signing this agreement. So the international community must stand united in condemning and countering any illicit activities that may undermine the international peace and security. And the government of the Republic of Korea will respond to whatever actions that may threaten our national security resolutely and decisively.
Will this escalate tensions on the peninsula?
No, this is one thing. And
perfect. There we go. Ready to go? Go ahead. Good afternoon, everyone. The Right Honourable Justin Trudeau, the Honourable Sean Fraser, Honourable Jenna Sudds, and all of our other guests here this afternoon. I would like to formally welcome you all to Northumberland Regional High School. I know it's hot, so I'm going to move through my part quickly. I'm incredibly proud of the work that our staff and students have been doing over the last few years, and so grateful that you have taken the time to visit and recognize them today. As part of our work on student well-being and food security, we have placed a high priority on cultivating student leadership, ownership, and involvement at the school. Because of that, it is only fitting that I ask Jessica Fagan, a grade 12 student here at NRHS, to take over for me and talk briefly about some of the amazing things that she and the rest of our students and staff have been working on. Jessica?
I'm super short. Oh, good, I figured it out. Hello, my name is Jessica Fagan. I have been a leader in the Karma Closet program here at NHS for the last few years. Together with many school and community partners, we have worked towards reducing food insecurity and improving students' well-being at our school. I am incredibly proud to say that we have served over 20,000 free meals to our students over the last year. Our free lunch program has been a full school community effort. Ms. Bierzowski and our 40 Karma Closet volunteers set up and serve the lunches every day. Our principal, Mr. O'Toole, has supported us from the beginning. Mr. Heighton and his culinary trades classes prepared the food every day. Ms. Timmons and our agriculture classes grow some of the food we serve, and our local community has been very generous in donating to the program. This is a school-wide effort made possible by so many of our staff and students. We are so thankful to have the Right Honourable Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, and other special guests here with us today. Over the last year, we have written letters on the importance of a national school food program, and we are humbled that those letters have been received and recognized. We hope that this announcement allows for many other students to start a free lunch program and see some of the benefits that we have seen. I will now pass it off to MP Sean Fraser.
Hello and welcome to Pictou County, everyone. It's such an honor to be able to host some special guests here, but most special amongst them are the students responsible for the school food program here at Northumberland. Jessica, look, your last day of school here. Congratulations, and to any other grade 12s who might be here, all the best as you embark on the next chapter. It's a remarkable milestone when you finish the school journey, and to be able to celebrate it with a special visit today is pretty cool. I had the opportunity a number of months ago at the invitation of the principal, Matt O'Toole, who happens to live on my street, to come check out an amazing program that they built over the years. What I love about this program is the leadership that students are able to demonstrate to make sure that those that they sit alongside in class every day have an opportunity to get a healthy meal at no cost. And to hear that we're now feeding tens of thousands of healthy meals is a remarkable achievement. What I think is most important about this program is not just what happens between these four walls, but the opportunity to take lessons from a program that actually works, to repeat those lessons and scale up a national school food program as we're working on right across the country. But I should say this isn't possible without significant support from the community and from the school community. In particular, Ms. Bezanson and Mr. Heighton, for the work that you do to develop the skills within the students to manage the program. I sincerely want to say thank you. As a representative for this community, As the local representative for this community, you exemplify what it means to be a good community member who contributes to the well-being not only of your own household, but to that of your neighbor as well. We do have a special guest here, and I've got one more anecdote before I introduce him for you. There's a broader community effort that goes into these kinds of programs. People make donations to those who run the program, and in particular, the program just received a handful of mixers off a decommissioned Coast Guard vessel, which was actually taken apart by people who have good paying jobs in our community just a couple hours from here in Sheet Harbour. To see that we've got a circular economy going, supplying equipment to programs like this, demonstrates what can happen when communities come together and everybody buys into an important program like this. With that, I'm going to yield the microphone to my friend and colleague, the Right Honourable Justin Trudeau, who continues to show up for our community and continues to take lessons from what we do on the ground here back to Ottawa to develop programs. So, Prime Minister, welcome once again to my hometown.
Thank you, Sean. Thanks for the introduction, but mostly thank you for welcoming to your beautiful riding of Central Nova, and thank you for sharing with me this extraordinary community of people who are deeply connected and care so much, not just about making a difference, but about supporting community and building a stronger future at the same time. Je suis aussi très heureux d'être ici avec la ministre Jenna Sudds, qui est toujours là pour défendre les familles partout à travers le pays. I want to start by giving a huge thank you to all the students and to specifically Northumberland Regional High School Principal Matt O'Toole for inviting us here today to your school to completely disrupt this day in every possible way, but to really get to see just what an impact not just the staff and leadership of the school, but students are having in not just helping each other out, but creating an amazing sense of community, and the kind of optimism and engagement that will carry you through your entire lives, whatever it is that you do, including Jessica when she takes over my job one day. I just asked her to give me a few more years because I've still got lots to do. I also obviously want to give a huge shout out to Paul and Karen for their work as educators and administrators of the school food program, along with students like Jessica, who's a grade 12 student who worked tirelessly writing grant applications and putting in the work to get Northumberland Regional's free lunch program off the ground. It really has been an example of what student leadership looks like. We all know teachers work incredibly hard to make sure you have the best learning experiences possible. And when students step up to start running programs and engaging in things significantly, it creates even more opportunities for teachers to teach, to engage, to empower, and to show how to have the maximum impact out in the real world. Our government, when we first got elected, we pledged to do politics differently. We rejected the idea of right-wing trickle-down economics. On s'est engagé à réparer les dommages causés par les coupures du gouvernement précédent en investissant dans des programmes sociaux essentiels, et on a promis de faire du Canada un endroit toujours plus équitable et plus prospère. And that work on making sure that everyone has a real and fair chance, that we're creating opportunities for everyone to prosper by reinvesting in the social programs that had been cut previously, we've seen that we've been able to make important progress. We introduced the Canada Child Benefit that'll be actually increasing next month by about $350 for the most low-income families across the country. We introduced $10 a day childcare. We're bringing forward measures that are providing families here in Nova Scotia about $13,000 in savings per child every single year through the reductions in the federal investments in childcare. But we know that these are really difficult times. Even with inflation coming down, even with interest rates starting to come down, and there's positive signs, the prices for everything are just too high. We know how families are squeezed, which is why we've been acting not just with slogans designed to make people even madder about the situation, but bringing forward real solutions. Just last April, we brought forward a budget that's focused on delivering fairness for every generation. That's a big claim. So what does that involve? It involves bringing in things like free insulin and diabetes medication and free contraceptive medication and devices. On met également en œuvre le régime canadien de soins dentaires qui a déjà permis à plus de 200 000 aînés d'aller chez le dentiste au cours des 6 dernières semaines. The Canada Dental Program has made a huge impact on seniors right across the country, and there is so much more to do. As of next week, the Canada Dental Program will be opened up to kids under 18 and Canadians of all ages living with disabilities. On va étendre le programme de soins dentaires aux jeunes et aux personnes en situation de handicap. Ça fait partie de tout ce qu'on est en train de faire, but that's not all. In Budget 2024, we announced a national school food program, a program that'll feed up to 400,000 kids more every year and save the average two-child family about $800 a year in grocery bills. And while the Conservatives have worked hard to hold up this program in Parliament, we're going to keep pushing ahead to deliver for families seeking relief from those high grocery prices. So today, we're announcing our National School Food Policy, which outlines our vision, principles, and objectives for implementing the National School Food Program. This policy lays the groundwork for strong collaboration with provinces, territories, and Indigenous communities, including with the Government of Nova Scotia that has shown an ambition and a desire to move forward even quicker to implement an even bigger school food program across the province. Le Programme national d'alimentation scolaire va permettre aux élèves de mieux se concentrer à l'école pour avoir toutes les chances de réussir. Our National School Food Program will make a real difference in the lives of Canadians, including right here at Northumberland Regional High School, whose students made their voices heard as we were developing this program. At the end of last year, I received a whole bunch of letters, including from Tyler, who's Northumberland's proud Student Council co-president, who explained that, and I'm going to quote him here, the not only nutritional, but health and behavioral effects of school lunches are undeniable. Or Audrey, who's in grade 10, and told me she's lucky enough to have access to healthy food at home, but for her it's important that others who aren't as fortunate get the food they need. Plusieurs autres élèves m'ont aussi écrit pour me dire qu'avec leur programme d'alimentation scolaire, ils n'ont pas à s'inquiéter de manger à leur faim. Ils peuvent apprendre, jouer et faire des amis plus facilement. Well, Tyler, Audrey, and others, we got a lot of letters. We heard you. And in Budget 2024, we acted with that $200 million a year you were asking for 5 years, $1 billion to make sure kids right across the country have the same opportunities that you have here at Northumberland Regional High. See, since the beginning, we vowed to do politics differently, to deliver fairness for every generation. And with today's National School Food Policy, we're taking another step forward to make that a reality. There's always a lot more to do. We know people are facing all sorts of pressures, from housing to health supports, to concerns about what kind of jobs and futures there are for yourselves and your communities. Well, these are the things that the government is investing in to make sure that every generation has that opportunity to succeed and to thrive and to create a stronger Canada every single day. So thank you all for everything you do, not just to help out your fellow students, but to develop the leadership skills that all of us are going to be counting on in coming decades and generations. Merci beaucoup d'être ici ce soir, cet après-midi, et j'ai bien hâte maintenant de passer la parole à Jenna Sudds. Jenna, up to you now. Thank you.
Amazing. Good afternoon, everyone. Bon après-midi tout le monde. Je suis ravie d'être ici avec vous aujourd'hui. What an exciting end to the school year. It is amazing to be here and to have some time with the students and educators who have shared the incredible work that they have done here in their school to ensure that their fellow classmates have access to healthy food while at school. Incredible work and really inspiring to see today. We know undoubtedly that children deserve the best possible start at life. We all want the best for our children, and setting them up for success so they can grow, they can learn, and reach their full potential is a priority for myself and our government. We know that currently 1 in 4 children in Canada do not get enough quality food in a day. And too many parents are struggling to send a full lunch to school for their children. Comme ministre des Familles, des Enfants et du Développement social, les éducatrices et les élèves, comme les élèves ici aujourd'hui, m'ont dit qu'un programme national d'alimentation scolaire est essential. Studies have shown that kids learn better on a full stomach. I had the opportunity this morning as well to speak with some incredible organizations across the country, including Nourish Nova Scotia. I know Amy and Lindsay are here today, the provincial delivery partner. I was able to speak with Mark Brand last night, a chef turned a social entrepreneur, who have shared their enthusiasm for moving forward today with the National School Food Policy. As the Prime Minister has shared, Budget 2024 has put forward a $1 billion commitment to build a national school food program. Part of that commitment, today we are moving forward with the National School Food Policy. That policy is our vision as a government that all children and youth across this country have access to nutritious food at school without barriers, without stigma, and with food that is grown close to home. The goal is to expand and to enhance existing programs across the country so that more children can benefit from these programs. But to be clear, we do expect the provinces and territorial governments to maintain their current funding and to maintain the existing programs as we make additional investments to expand these programs and expand the reach to more communities and to more children. And we're doing this because we believe in generational fairness and we believe in doing what's right for our children. So you're probably asking yourself, how do we pay for this? Well, I challenge this. I would argue that this is one of the most important investments that we can make as a government. Investments in our children. These are investments in the future. And as a government, I am proud that we are making these investments in our kids because we believe in the future of this country. We will continue to fight for Canadians and Canadian families to ensure that your children have the best possible start at life. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. And I'll pass.
Okay, final thoughts, and this rant kind of goes out to Justin Trudeau. We keep hearing you blame the Conservatives because they didn't vote for this, or they didn't vote for that, or they vetoed or voted down other different programs that you put in place. But there is something that has to be said for some of your programs that you created during COVID, as without planning and without consideration of what could happen down the line during COVID-19 has caused a lot of the inflation that we see today. That a lot of the carbon taxing and the carbon programs that you say are working are just simply raising prices for all of us out there. I'm not going to rant in favor of Mr. Povier either, because some of the programs that you want to see put in place are just as harmful to the average person out there and will do the same thing to our economy. We, as the people out there voting, need to decide who is going to run our country and who is best for us. And that stands for any of us who live in any type of democracy or republic where we are allowed to cast a vote. Cast a vote for those people who are going to support us and help us put food on the table, put energy and fuel into our vehicles so that we can get backwards and forth to work. Those things that are going to support our community. A student-run food program is a wonderful thing and should be promoted across the country to allow students to be able to feed their fellow students. What a wonderful program. What a wonderful way of thinking. Thank you for listening to us here on Depictions Media. You've been listening to Policy and Rights. I've been your host, Michael Clogs. Please find that subscribe button wherever you are and help us spread the love. This show has been produced by Depictions Media. Please contact us at depictions.media for more information.